Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about the 4 pillars of the modern tabletop role-playing game, which we do not currently have, okay? So, I think a lot about tabletop role-playing games. I absolutely love tabletop role-playing games, and one of the things that's happened recently is I've felt a little bit of frustration as I'm reading tabletop role-playing games, and the reason why is I'm continually looking for a game that hasn't been made yet, right? And I'm going to share with you the pillars of what I think need to happen in modern tabletop role-playing games in order for our hobby as a whole to really surge forward, right? And really kind of overtake what we've been dealing with, right? Which are some serious problems. And so I'm gonna share with you the 4 core pillars of what a modern tabletop role-playing game will be. Now, I have to say something. One, like every single Dungeons and Dragons or tabletop role-playing game commentator on the internet right now, I of course am building a tabletop role-playing game, right? Maybe there's a few guys out there who aren't, but the vast majority do or will at some point, right? And so, and the reality is, I've tried to bring my tabletop role-playing game to fruition many times, and the reason why I'm sharing this now is, I remember an old saying from Ronald Reagan. He said, "A man can accomplish anything if he doesn't care who gets the credit." Right? And I would love to be the guy who delivers the modern tabletop role-playing game, but the reality is, there's a lot of obstacles to me doing that personally. One of them are the many blessings of my life. I mean, it sounds strange, but I have a wife who loves me. I have 4 kids. I love them. And I keep trying to work on these projects. And I write slow. And in addition to that, my life just gets in the way of me finishing projects. And even if I were to bring a project to fruition, one of the things I recently discovered is I recently put together a tabletop an adventure, a Dungeons and Dragons adventure, which was released through nerdarchy.com. It's called Arbor Jade. And one of the things I realized when I did that project is the writing is absolutely the easiest part. Getting art is outrageously difficult, and getting layout done is outrageously difficult, and I believe that both of them are much, much harder than the writing, right? So even if I was able to finish this tabletop role-playing game that I'm about to explain, the odds of me bringing it to market successfully are extremely low because I don't know anything about layout and art. Okay, now there are guys, like the best guy in the industry right now for layout, in my opinion, is Lewis Porter Jr. And the best artist in the industry is Wayne Reynolds, right? So, and those guys are incredibly difficult to get a hold of, and and are expensive because their work is worth a fortune, right? But the issue is, I love tabletop role-playing games, and I would really like to be the guy that delivers this, but the industry as a whole needs this, right? And so I'm going to share it now. I'm just going to give my ideas out there. And anybody who wants, if you can run faster than me to the finish line, do it, because I want this to be out there for the industry overall. Okay. So here is what the modern tabletop role-playing game should look like. Okay. It should have 4 things. 1, it needs to be 99 pages or less. We need to kill the 300-page doorstop book. It's got to be 99 pages or less. And the reason why is 300-page rule books are stopping us from getting players who are just not going to read a 300-page rule book, right? But there are millions of people right now who read 120-page graphic novels, right? And that's good. That's great, right? And we want to be able to access them. And so we got to get this thing down to 99 pages, right? In addition to that, this tabletop role-playing game has to be able to deal with any combat with 20 or more participants, non-player characters and player characters. So any non-mass combat, and mass combat's always had its own rules anyway. So any regular combat needs to run in 10 minutes or less and it should be 2 phases, a beginning and an end phase. That's it, period. Right? And, and in addition to that, it's got to be able to tell a story in the length of a movie, an hour and 45 minutes max, absolute max, right? Now, the combat rule will help. In fact, I would put that time limit as a subset of the combat rule, okay? In addition to that, so it has to be 99 pages or less. It has to, every single normal combat, that's not an end boss, right? Even end boss should be able to do this, but every normal combat, 90% of all the combats in the game should run in 10 minutes or less and should have 2 phases, a start and an end. It has to have a mechanic that limits combat to less than 50% of the game. Same thing. If we're going to have a revolution in tabletop role-playing games, if we're going to get people who have never played these games before, we need to stop focusing on combat. Mike Mearls has done a tremendous job with exploration, interaction, combat in explaining Dungeons & Dragons, that combat should only be a third of the game, right? All right, and then, so you have those 3, and then the last thing is that it needs to absolutely kill the source book. The source book has to die. And the reason why is all you should ever need to run the game is the core rulebook, and the core rulebook should stand until your new version comes out, and all of the material that you would generally put into a source book, right, will be released for free on the internet, okay? And Unearthed Arcana, in my opinion, has set the standard. They have, for multiple years now, given out tremendous content week after week for nothing, right? And they've been viable. They're coming up on a movie. So it's been proven that a company can do this, right? And people are going to complain, oh, small companies can't. Well, that's right. Well, I'm talking about the industry. I'm talking about the big dogs, Paizo and and FFG and Evil Hack Games, the real companies, right? And of course, Wizards of the Coast. Right? So these are the 4 pillars of the modern tabletop role-playing game. And if we deliver a 99-page rulebook, if we deliver a game that runs every combat in 10 minutes or less in 2 phases, if we deliver a game that never has the majority of its content being combat, and if we deliver a game that has no source books, and that one book is all you need to play it, right? And that it has some other articles that any game master can add in if they want to, but they can just leave that flapping in the wind if they want, just like D&D has done. Then what's going to happen is it's going to revolutionize tabletop role-playing games. We're going to get players that we have never, ever seen before. And we can take our 2 or 3 million tabletop role players that exist in the United States of America today and bounce that up to tenfold, to 20 or 30 million players, and approach the numbers that we were seeing in the 90s when tabletop role-playing games was at its height. And I think it's really important to do this, and I think this is what we need to do to arrive at the proper place for tabletop role-playing games. So that is the modern tabletop role-playing game, and I invite anybody who's out there to race toward that finish line and beat me to it, right? And one of the reasons also why I shared this today was Vincent D. Baker wrote Apocalypse World, and he was the guy who brought it forward one of the best, most innovative rule systems ever designed in tabletop role-playing games. But he never made it into the promised land. Adam Cobell did, right? He's the one who actually brought Dungeon World, which people actually played, right? And so that's another reason why I'm saying, I'm not going to keep this secret behind myself. We really need this to happen. And I hope I get there first, but if anybody else can beat me to it, that'd be awesome. Take care, everybody.